thanks for being here today at the iAngels VC Breakfast Club. Today we'll be covering topics around AI and how AI is improving health. I'd like to welcome Shelley Hod-Moyal, co-founder and co-CEO of iAngels, to the stage.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. For those of you who don't know us yet, we're iAngels. iAngels is a company I founded 6 years ago together with Mor Assia. Today, 6 years later, we've invested in 60 companies. We're managing $200 million. We just started our first institutional VC fund, which is anchored by the European Investment Fund. We have very nice performance for our 1,000 investors in 50 countries. We've had 13 profitable exits, and we're continuing to grow and very excited about the developments. So we've gathered here today to celebrate our health tech companies and health tech in general. I think healthcare has been a huge industry throughout the years. It comprises 10 to 20% of GDP, depending on whichever country you're looking at. In the U.S. currently, healthcare is 18% GDP, and it's growing because of the aging population. And what's interesting today about healthcare is that in the past, healthcare was known as a very boring industry, an industry that was difficult to navigate. It was an industry where data was organized in silos, and technology wasn't really there to actually add value to companies. And today, with breakthroughs in AI, in software, in computer vision, we're at a totally different place. And the different trends worldwide of personalization, do-it-yourself, genetics, we're actually able to bring these trends to fruition in healthcare. And the good news is that these are exactly the things that Israel excels in. Why do we excel in healthcare or in health tech? Well, a lot of people, whenever I go around the world, ask me about what makes Startup Nation Startup Nation. Now, most of you live here in Israel, so I don't need to tell you about the culture here and the core value or the core competency of Israelis as survivors. We've been surviving for thousands and thousands of years, and also over the last 70 years, we've had to cope with limited resources. And a lot of times I stand here and I tell the different stories of how Israelis became the startup nation by taking a real need, like the need to defend ourselves, and creating technologies to survive. And actually one nice example, which I think displays very nicely kind of the startup nation and how it connects to health tech, is our recent exit in Clear Genetics. So Clear Genetics is a company that created a chatbot which provides consumers with genetic testing. Now it starts with Professor Moti Shochat, and Moti Shochat is one of the world-leading geneticists in the world. And the reason for that is because us Ashkenazi Jews, or at least half of us, we suffer from some of the worst diseases and genetic mutations in the world. And what as a result of this, we have developed technologies to deal with this issue. And Professor Moti Shochat has become a world expert in genetics. In fact, today, the technology that's used whenever a couple wants to conceive a baby is based on his technology. Now, Moran and her husband, Guy, for several years, even when Moran was in high school, she dreamed of providing genetic testing to the masses. But at the time, it was impossible because it was so expensive. And And so she basically stayed put. And then 5 years ago, once it became possible to do genetic tests for $200, she and her husband left their job and created Clear Genetics. And 2 years after they graduated from the prestigious Y Combinator, they were acquired for $50 million by Invitae with only 8 employees and $2 million of funding. So I think this shows really how the know-how and the accumulated experience of technologists and scientists in Israel create what is known today as the startup nation. But what's more interesting today is really our transition to scaling up. I don't know if you remember us about 6 years ago. There was a time when we used to run around the world and talk about Waze and how Google acquired Waze for $1 billion and what an incredible exit it was and how it put Israelis on the map and the fact that Israelis can do B2C. But today, 6 years later, a $1 billion acquisition is not rare anymore. Just in the last year, there have been $5 billion acquisitions. We've already had Mobileye that was $15 billion. Just a couple of months ago, $3.5 billion Havana Labs. And what we're seeing is companies that are not just creating technologies and selling them to global corporates. These are entrepreneurs that are coming and building significant businesses. I like to say sometimes, before starting iAngels, I used to work at Goldman, and we had a target list of companies that could be relevant for business at Goldman. Can anybody guess how many companies were on that list? Guesses, 7 years ago, on the short list. 1,000. 10 companies. 10 companies which Goldman thought would be worth $500 million or above. That's it. And today, there are 32 companies that are already valued at $1 billion. There are more than 30 companies in Israel today generating more than $100 million in revenues. So Israel is a place for entrepreneurs to really take technologies and disrupt entire industries. If I go back to kind of where we started the conversation about how we were 70 years ago, when there's this joke about how we ended up in the land of milk and honey instead of the land of petroleum of all our neighboring nations. Today, it's no longer the case. Today, it's clear that technology is the currency, and this is what Israel thrives at. In terms of digital health, Israel is also a pioneer in digital health. 98% of the healthcare system is digitized. We're a global leader in healthcare in terms of technologies like imaging analytics, computer vision, AI, video communications. Now today, if you look at the digital health landscape, then the 3 most common applications are 1, process efficiency, 2, the use and analysis of data to generate actionable insights from images or from video. We'll see a couple of companies like that today, like Midorion and Bina. And third is basically personalized health and precision medicine and wellness, which also we'll see a company, MyAir, which is exactly feeding to this trend. So just so you know, digital health startups, they raised $660 million just in 2019, which represented a 32% increase. And it's just the beginning. And we're very excited as iAngels. We've been investing in healthcare since we've started pretty much. We have 9 companies representing about 15% of our portfolio. Many of these companies have experienced incredible traction, especially in the last year. With that, I wanted to thank you again and invite our partners and also a friend now, Mark Selinger, which is a partner at McDermott Will Emery. And so we're very excited to partner with them.
Hello, good morning. Good to see everybody here. Just quickly, I'll tell you a little bit about our firm. McDermott is a international full-service firm of 1,200 lawyers, 21 offices, and actually soon to be, or in fact now, 22. We just opened here in Tel Aviv in January, an office staffed initially by myself and my partner, Gary Emanuel, who's here. We've been doing work in Israel. I've been doing work in Israel for 25 years. And as Shelley indicated, obviously a place of growing significance around the world, and which is why firms like ours are here and looking to expand here. I'm mostly here to introduce my partner, Jen Geeter. So Jen and I have been partners for almost 20 years. Jen is in our health practice, which is by reputation the leading health life sciences practices in the States. With, I don't know the current number of practitioners, something like 120 practitioners in that space. Jen has been doing digital health and data privacy since before those words were, and certainly with digital health before those words were coined, and brings a significant amount of expertise in this space and in privacy generally. Obviously in this area, as the digital health revolution grows, at the same time, privacy concerns, privacy issues are crucial. And Jen is going to speak a bit about the issues that companies in this space will face as they're expanding, particularly into the States, from both regulatory perspectives and otherwise. So, Jen, please.
Good morning. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Shelley, and really the entire iAngels team for having us. I hope that many of you will come up and introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about what you're working on. If I could do anything besides be a digital health lawyer professionally, I'd be a digital health entrepreneur, so I have a bit of envy for all the cool stuff that you bring to bear. So thank you for having me. I'm going to speak for just about 10 minutes, and then we're going to hear from the companies that Shelley mentioned, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A. Let's see. I know we're having I may need your help. So while we're figuring out how to get the slides working, oh, perfect. For some reason it wasn't, I can't get it to go there. So until the slides show up, what I wanted to start with is just a snapshot of what's happening in the US health market, because those are your customers, principally health plans and health payers. And you can have the best technology in the world, and what Shelley said is true. What is coming out of Israel is truly remarkable. Thank you so much. But if it doesn't resonate with the particular pressures and constraints of your major customers, and your major customers are going to be providers and plans in the United States, less so actual individual consumers, then you'll struggle to get the traction that you deserve. So right now in the US, we have a healthcare system, but I would probably put system in air quotes, because the delivery of healthcare in the United States is extremely expensive and poorly done. So many of you probably know this, but we're facing some major challenges where digital health can be effective if there's good synergy. So first of all, our system is way too expensive. It's too expensive for payers, it's too expensive to employers, it's too expensive for individuals. No one can bear the spiraling costs of healthcare in the United States. In the US, the major government payers service some of the highest cost populations. So the elderly, Medicare, lower income, Medicaid, Tri-Health, families of active military, and veterans. So if you're looking at amortizing risk across a payer system, that's principally the US government payer. And then you have employers. Most of us who are not insured by the government get our insurance through our employers, which presents huge challenges, financial challenges to employers. And then there's the retail market. Many of you may know that we passed the Affordable Care Act, sometimes called Obamacare, a number of years ago. The current administration thought about repeal and replace, but mostly had an emphasis on repeal, less emphasis on replace. And at the last minute, there were enough votes, principally because of the vote of late Senator McCain, to not repeal, because they really weren't sure what was going to come after, and it would have introduced chaos, more chaos, into the US market. So they've sort of been taking it away piece by piece, dismantling it, which introduces its own kind of chaos. So we don't really have comprehensive health insurance. We also have major demographic shifts. We are an aging population. Every time I look at this slide, I realize I'm getting closer to the 65 moniker rather than more far away from it. So we have an aging population. We have a lot of waste. And then we have some specific healthcare challenges. We have an opioid crisis, which goes far beyond the challenges and the tragedy of addiction. It has stresses on the whole healthcare system. We have a reimbursement model that struggles to identify value on things that cannot be directly reimbursed. So many of the digital health technologies that are the most creative and the most innovative, they aren't things that a plan will pay for outright. They are not direct services for which a claim can be submitted to a payer, which means you have to be able to show plans and payers how your technology will otherwise reduce their costs, because they can't charge for what you do. And one of the challenges in the US healthcare market is we don't really pay for outcomes very well. We don't pay for keeping people healthy. We don't pay for people to not be readmitted prematurely to the hospital in any very specific way. We're trying to get there. We're trying to have more value-based care. But one of the constraints to do that is technology. So we have a little bit of a chicken and egg challenge in the United States. How do we help people have value-based care before we really have the tools to do it? Okay, here's the test. Okay. So 50%, these are some estimates, of by 2025, the digital health market will be focused on the United States. It's obviously a massive market, just in terms of the sheer numbers of people. It's also a very diverse market, which can make it attractive for digital health companies because the data feeding into your tools from the United States touches every population, every demographic, every ethnic group, every income bracket, every condition, every genetic profile. I don't know if this is true, but from living in America, it seems one of the most heterogeneous places to live. And so as digital health technologies want their algorithm, want their data, want their AI to be responsive to all sorts of environment, the US market is particularly powerful. There's a huge uptick in investment. People have seized on digital health technologies as, if not a panacea, one major opportunity for real improvement in US healthcare. There's tremendous interest in the United States for digital health companies that speak the language of health plans and health payers. These are some leave behind statistics. We can give you copies. We won't go through all of them, but they're just to illustrate the tremendous need and the tremendous impact that digital technologies are beginning to have in the US market. Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to touch on is I know that everyone wants to be disruptive. Everyone wants to have a disruptive technology and do something differently than it's ever been done before. The innovative culture that's pervasive here in Israel is not as pervasive in the United States. So health plans and health providers in the United States are deeply conservative entities. I don't mean politically, I mean culturally. They're highly normative, they have specific ways of doing things. They're very risk averse. When someone comes with a technology, many of my clients are providers and payers, probably half, and then half are digital health companies. They want to make sure that in the process of your being disruptive and innovative, you haven't shifted the compliance burden onto them. That one of the things that your technology does really well is take better care of people while being relevant in the particular US market. So do you know about the privacy regulations that plans and payers have to comply with? And are you able to talk with those customers about those regulations and why your technology will help? Do you understand the reimbursement system? Do you know why your product is or is not regulated by the FDA? The FDA's rules for regulating digital health technologies are not necessarily intuitive. Many digital health technologies are considered medical devices by the US government, even though they're not an MRI machine, they're not a pacemaker. It's different there. Do you understand the corporate practice of medicine? How your ownership structure has to be in the United States? If you do remote monitoring, do you understand not just the federal legislation, but how your technology is allowed or not allowed to cross state lines? These are the types of problems that plans and payers have to deal with. So they're looking for digital health partners who have thought about these issues and have built them into their product, not as a nice thing to do at the very end, but really from the ground up. Okay, so in a snapshot, if you're going to take a picture of anything, take a picture of this slide. You can take out your phone, it won't bother me. This is a quick snapshot of the major digital health regulatory, so everyone really did is taking out their camera and taking a picture. I'm going to step over here so I'm not in it. These are the major areas of digital health regulation that you're going to want to be prepared to speak to. We will not talk about all of these today. A comprehensive market entry into the United States, you need to be prepared to address all of these, either to show they're not relevant to your company or to be able to talk about how you've addressed them in your technology from the ground up. So just quickly going around the circle, and then we're going to talk just a few minutes about privacy more specifically. So device clearance, labeling, and compliance. This is, are you regulated by the FDA? And if so, how? And if not, why not? And if not, do you know where your guardrail is? Do you know what you cannot say about your product? Forget what your product does, but what you can say or cannot say about it to make sure you stay within FDA lines. One thing you may be thinking about is that your initial entry to the United States will not be FDA regulated, but you have a 2.0 or a 3.0 version of your product on your mind that might be FDA regulated just by switching one or two functionalities or wanting to say something slightly differently about how your product performs diagnostically, therapeutically, with respect to controlling costs, improving outcomes. All of those claims could trigger FDA oversight. Even if you're not regulated by the FDA, you will be regulated by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, because you will be a for-profit company, I'm assuming, in the United States. And the FTC regulates any for-profit entity, and it looks at all of your privacy settings and whether the labeling for your product, your sales materials, your marketing materials, your website, if any of it is unfair or deceptive. Payment and reimbursement strategies, how are you going to make money? Who is going to pay for your product? Will you have a monetization strategy for the data you collect? Meaning, are you going to use that data for other secondary purposes? And if so, how have you built your data architecture to make that possible? Is your product going to be reimbursable? And do you have the necessary data from your clinical trials, not just to get it approved by the FDA, but to substantiate your reimbursement requests? So as you're designing your studies or your evidence to show how your technology works, are you building in the endpoints you would need to be able to show return on investment for plans and payers, or to even get a reimbursement code? Licensure, are you a telehealth company? Will you be offering remote monitoring? Your company sits one place, the user sits in another state. So does your technology cross state lines? In the United States, we regulate at the state level. So if you have a remote monitoring tool that helps people be cared for in their homes, and those homes are in multiple states, you will need to think about licensure and standards of practice in every state. This is one of the major challenges that companies face from all over the world when they enter the United States. They say, what are the rules? And I say, in what state? And there are 50 of them, and they differ across states and within state. Formation and financing, Mark. This is Mark's bailiwick, not mine. How will you be organized? How will you have investments? How will you make sure, this is an issue Mark and I were talking last night, that minority investments don't push you in a regulatory direction that you don't want? How do you think about licensing and collaboration, especially around your data? How do you think about managing your IP and your data asset protection? Will you need to be certified by the US government because of the kind of IT that you offer? Are your reimbursement and provider relationships consistent with U.S. fraud and abuse laws? And are you ready to confront our data privacy and security regime, which changes every day? We have currently 15 pending state laws that will give California and its CCPA a run for its money. So just quickly, lastly, and then I know we have a couple of companies to hear from. I wanted to give you an example of how you would take a closer look at any one of these topics. And I picked data strategies because I think it's a lot of fun. And because it touches on the areas that Shelley mentioned. It touches on personalized care. It touches on precision medicine. It touches on data strategies. If you're a digital health business, then your digitized data is your currency, and you need to think of it in those terms. So the first is, obviously, privacy and security are key. No privacy lawyer would say otherwise, but they are just a part of data strategies. Data strategies is a bigger topic. It really asks you to think about your data as your asset, and where do you need it? What do you need it to do? In what form? How is it curated? The image I like to give is of a daisy chain. How can you make the data move through your whole organization from one place to the next by piecing together a regulatory strategy? Second, how can you think of privacy as a competitive advantage? This was not always the case. So privacy was usually seen as a cost center, something you had to do, but it really wasn't where you wanted to put your money. Now privacy and security is really seen as a competitive advantage in the United States. Payers and providers are hungry for companies that know how to talk about this and are forward-thinking, especially given uncertainty. Obviously, you need to know your regulations. People are going to expect that you are conversant, not only about HIPAA, which is the federal health privacy law, but at the state level. Quickly, just data discipline. I know there maybe is a thought that more is better. That's not always necessarily the case. So what data do you actually need? And have you built a data architecture that allows you to use the data you want and avoid the data you don't need, which is one of the building blocks of any data asset strategy. Just quickly, I would say, are you going to face consumers? And by consumers in the US, we mean not patients, not plan participants, like Fitbit. That's a consumer-facing tool. It's not being offered through providers or plans. Or are you going to be patient or health plan member-facing? Those are two totally different health regulatory regimes in the United States. And then I will just skip to the last because I want to let Shelley take over, is how are you going to build public trust and confidence? I was actually at a business meeting last night and we were talking about exactly this issue. So historically, there's been a sense that as long as what you're doing is legally compliant, let's not talk about it. We don't want to unnerve the public. We don't want them to be concerned. As long as our technology is doing well and it's legally compliant, let's not make waves. I think what you're seeing right now in the United States through a number of sort of very public concerns and stories in the news media about health information is that there is a real difference between what the law allows in the United States and what individual people in the United States think the law is. Real lack of public understanding and awareness. So now we're starting to talk with clients about going on the offensive, how to talk about what they're doing and why they're proud of it. And your technologies are key to that because you may be patient-facing, you may be part of the digital health strategy of a health plan or a healthcare provider. What you bring to the table, they need to be able to talk about it in a way that builds public trust and confidence, which may mean doing not just what the law requires, but something different and more, so that your technology builds bridges to the individuals that they're responsible for caring for. I could talk about this all day, but I promised I wouldn't. So I'm going to turn it back over to Shelley, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for this insightful presentation. Next up, we will be hearing from Asaf Kleinbord, co-founder and CEO of Medorian. Medorian aims to solve one of the most critical problems in today's healthcare management, driving people to take action of their own health. Medorian is led by a team of entrepreneurs who have been working together since the Army, the IDF's Artillery Corps. As a commander in the IDF, Asaf developed exceptional management capabilities, pressure resilience, quick thinking, and adaptation to immediate action in times of necessary change. Following his Army service, Asaf worked at SAP as a software developer and CloudShare, which he managed and led the R&D team.
Thanks, Shelly. 5 minutes about MedOrion in a second. Okay, so at MedOrion, we help healthcare organizations, specifically healthcare insurances, health plans, to understand, predict, and eventually influence their members' behavior. A quick overview of our history. So we started the company in 2017. In early 2019, we landed a significant pilot with the top 10 US healthcare insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. This pilot just recently converted into a $1 million recurring contract spread across 3 different divisions within Blue Cross. We also leveraged the success story with Blue Cross to generate an exciting pipeline of opportunities beyond Blue Cross. So I'll just continue what Jennifer just said. There's a shift in the US healthcare market, a major shift called value-based care. Healthcare organization, a significant part of it already are being measured not according to the number of patients that they are treating, but based on clinical quality measurements regarding their members. In this world, in the world of value-based care, influencing members is crucial. For example, for an insurer that manages 1 million members, improving cancer screening rates by just 10%, translates into additional annual revenues of around $50 million. Yet, as Jennifer said, despite this financial motivation and despite a lot of effort from a lot of investment from the insurance side, there's still a gap between healthcare insurances and other companies like Amazon or Spotify when it comes to influencing and understanding consumer members' behavior. Trying to figure out why in a very short discussion, I'll point up 2 main reasons. First is data. Data in healthcare has complex semantics, complex regulation, and as we just saw, and by the way, also complex infrastructure and unique infrastructure. And the second one is behavioral. The behavioral science that describes how to convince someone to schedule colonoscopy is just different than the one that describes how to download an app or how to buy some gadget. Today, most healthcare organizations, most insurers rely on black box kind of companies that solve this problem by harnessing heavy services models. At MedOrion, we take a completely different approach, a much more ambitious approach. We build a software solution that will allow subject matter experts within the insurances, users within the insurance companies to do it by themselves. Our platform continuously digests claims and clinical data, and it translates it into a succinct behavioral model that allows users within the organization to gain deep insights on their population. Consider, for example, how Amazon knows how to recommend the best product for each consumer, or how Spotify recommends the best music for each user based on their previous behavior. By using MedOrion, organization can do the same. They can build sophisticated, tailored at the member level outreach journeys that are based on the clinical history of their members and are based on the clinical behavior of their members. Eventually results in journeys that their likelihood to succeed to actually activate members is much higher. In this case, we have an example of activating members towards scheduling colorectal cancer screening tests. By using this technology, the guys at Blue Cross Michigan were able to achieve in 2019 engagement results that were 4 times better than anything they had before or in parallel. The system generated around $20 million total in 2019 for these guys. Behind the scenes, we use a technology called embedding. It's an unsupervised deep learning technique that takes sparse data, in our case claims data, that was originally designed for financial reasons and translate it into a succinct behavioral model that allows almost real-time answering of any behavioral queries. This kind of technology is being used by advanced companies like Spotify and Amazon again, yet we are the first one who are using in the healthcare behavior context, and we have to redefine significant part of it in order to apply it to our settings. That's it. We are very excited with our achievements so far. We are much more excited with the future. We just closed the seed round led by Shelly and iAngels. And in 2020 and beyond, we plan to continue and expand within Blue Cross and also materialize our opportunities beyond Blue Cross, eventually to deepen our product market fit in the States. That's it. Thank you.
So thanks, Asaf. Why now in terms of the technology?
So there are two answers to the why now. In terms of market, I think you said it very well, and Jennifer talked about it. The market is ready for innovation. There are real opportunities to deploy advanced software. In terms of technology, the new developments in the AI space, the ability to take huge chunk of data, to digest it, and to quickly answer questions, in the cloud and rapidly, it's as it affects in almost every kind of area we know today, and healthcare is a significant part with a lot of money and a lot of data. So this is just the reason.
And for you as a startup from Israel, how do you differentiate yourself?
That's a very crucial question that we continue and think about it every day. Most startups in the healthcare space, for many good reasons, slowly develop healthcare services capabilities, because healthcare organizations, like Jennifer said, are expecting to get full solution, end-to-end. Doing it from Israel is hard. It's hard. Building a services arm or operation arm is not the right way to do, I think, from Israel. So you have to come up with a technology that still does a full solution that allows organizations to use it, yet think about the economy around it. Who is going to harness it? Who's going to stay up late at night in order to use it? And because I think, in a way, because of this burden that we are far from the market and we have to think about it, eventually we get to the market with much better or much more ready kind of solutions, and it allows us to beat competition there in the technology aspect and performance aspect.
Why did you choose to tackle insurance companies first? I mean, historically, they're known as slow, less early to adopt.
Again, two quick answers. First, in the value chain of healthcare, insurance companies are higher than providers. So they have more money to invest in such technologies. I think second, it is changing, what you just described. The best example is the aging example, Shelly, that you talked about. Medicare Advantage, the private insurances covering elderly people is exploding. It's tripled itself in the last decade. It's going to quadruple itself in the next decade. And insurances now slowly shift into modern companies that invest in healthcare, and we ride this trend. That's it.
So a lot of people are talking about the transition from transactional to value-based. Can you give an example of value-based services and what you're doing in this field?
Yeah, first of all, maybe as opposed to what Jennifer said, I personally really see the value-based care change in the healthcare space. It's starting from HR. They are hiring insurance companies hiring people from TripAdvisor or from banks and financial consumer-facing organizations, and the DNA, which is very conservative, slowly changes. Second, the healthcare market is complex. There are islands where you can come in and suggest solutions that will reduce costs, and they will be willing to pay for it. It's very there's a high probability that in the next door you'll try the same and it won't work because they don't care about it yet. So you have to find your way, and since it's so big, there is enough market for value-based care solutions, for solutions that actually focus on preventive, on reducing cost, and on long-term objectives, and not only on charging for services.
So you worked before at SAP and at regular enterprises. What do you see as kind of the difference working with healthcare enterprises?
Again, echoing Jennifer, I most of my life before Medorayan, we sold the solutions to IT people. In the healthcare space, the business side and the full solution side is much more crucial. They don't like to get technology that just throws data on top of them. It's, some XML with or CSV with a lot of insights. It doesn't work. You have to think about the entire workflow. These people are very busy. Significant part of them are not tech savvy. They don't like the new shiny technology. And you have to think in advance, how will you make their life easier? For example, if they have to stay late at night, it won't work. It might work in the IT space. It won't work in the healthcare space. So that's for me, that I'm a newcomer, only 4 years in the healthcare space. It took me time to understand stuff that Shai, my partner, that has been there for 15 years, told me at the beginning. It's different. You have to design the product differently.
And how big can it be?
Oh, I just read an article from Yair, from Aemon, telling that it's 100 times bigger than cyber. I don't know. I didn't see these numbers, but it's very big. It's very big. Just the US market, just an example. Blue Cross Michigan, that we work with them, are $54 billion companies yearly. This is their revenues. Centene, a concrete opportunity, is $76 billion company, and they are buying a 30-something billion company called Dwellcare, or they are merging with them. It's huge. It's huge. They have a lot of money. They spend a lot of money on healthcare services and healthcare-related technology. And if you can navigate through all the challenges that Jennifer discussed and we discussed now, then eventually it's very big. It's very big. It can be, just Medorayan can reach $4 billion in the US just with insurances easily. Easy calculation, not easily done. Easy calculation.
Thank you, Asaf.
Toda.
I'm pleased to introduce Rachel Yelkoni, co-founder and co-CEO of MyAir. Together with her partner, Dovev Goldstein, they've developed an AI platform which delivers a personalized solution to combat stress through a range of wellness products. Rachel is a former C-level executive at Teva Pharmaceuticals, Nestle, and Strauss, with a proven track record in creating and marketing consumer goods. And Dovev is a serial entrepreneur who led 3 media and marketing technology companies to successful exits. Together with a team of experienced executives and scientists from the pharmaceutical, food, and technology industries, they are bringing to market the only solution to offer personalized and adaptive functional nutrition for stress management, creating a long-term health regime based on ongoing monitoring and rooted in data.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Please let me start with a quick poll. Within the last week, who here in the crowd suffered from stress? Please raise your hand. Within the last month, who experienced stress? Okay, so 75% of the US adults declared that they suffer from chronic stress. In the coming year, you or one of your beloved ones is going to visit a doctor due to stress. For the past 20 years, I had a stressful career in the leading pharma and food corporate. As a marketing manager at Strauss, I led breakthrough innovations, launching projects. As a CEO of the snacks division at Nestle, I was leading very big teams and fruitful businesses. And as VP marketing at Teva, I led complex global processes, and I'm sure the Israeli know Teva from the last 3 years and what happened there. So stress is part of my life, and as a career person, an executive manager, a mother, a caregiver to my parents, I always suffered from stress. And I could, slow down and take it maybe even easier, but who wants to do that? We always want to excel and to do more and to climb higher. But the question is, can we manage our stress? Stress is linked to the 6 leading causes of death. The cost of stress to the US economy estimated at over $300 billion a year. It carries a price tag of $25 billion in pharmaceutical sales. But the thing is that 85% of the US population prefer healthy foods as a means to increase performance. You were talking, Jennifer, about the opioid crisis. So of course that's part of that. If you search Google for the word healthy, 90% of the images you get are food. The opioid crisis created a huge problem to the pharma industry. People prefer to reduce their drugs and replace them with natural functional ingredients. Plants as a medicine is a common knowledge now, and more people believe that we are what we eat. So the next generation of food industry is food that works for me. We call it food for mood. Consumers expect superfood with added values. So MyAir is at a meeting point of 3 huge industries: personalized nutrition, functional food, and stress management. MyAir is a personalized functional food company specializing in stress management. We develop stress relief nutrition bars baked with machine learning technology. The food of the future is a combination between personal nutrition and functional superfood. Imagine, once a month, you receive a box to your doorstep with your name on it. In that box, you will find nutrition bars that relieve stress. Those bars are infused with research-based formulation, plant-based molecule derived from functional botanic extracts and terpenes. Our proprietary formulations are based on blends, adaptogens. Adaptogens and terpenes are a group of plants and herbs, all of them are research, that are natural, they have natural ability to heal with stress through the endocrine and autonomic nervous system. Our science is based on biomimicry. Biomimicry is actually the imitation of models and elements of nature in order to solve complex problems. We learned from the plants, and we imitate that, and then we create adherence. So it's even better than the natural option. When talking about chronic stress, one size does not fit all. Stress has many faces. For example, stress affects me, mainly at night, with my ability to sleep, but stress affects my co-founder, mainly in the mornings, with his energy levels and abilities to focus. So each one of us deserves a personalized solution. So now you will ask me, probably, how can we know what kind of bar you should eat? 10 years ago, when you were driving somewhere new, you had either to memorize direction or use a map. Cut to now, today, it's even unheard of to drive somewhere new without GPS or Waze. So the same thing is going to happen to food. Technology, AI technology, is going to drive our food decisions. And this is what we are doing at MyAir. Our algorithm monitor each customer personal stress levels and effects through physiological and psychological data. We use smartwatches like Garmin or Apple Watch that continuously track the consumer physiological data, heart rate variability, respiration, sleep quality, physical activity, etc., etc. And we combine that with deep psychological data based on the DSM, the Diagnostic Mental Disorders. Our patent-pending technology offers deep profiling and long-term personal stress management routine. At our preliminary research, we discovered that for each user, there are 2 stress symptoms which are stronger than the others. That's obvious. But here you can see user number 103, his stress occurs mainly in the mornings. And user number 117, his stress occurs mainly in the evenings, and they should get different treatment. Stress, like pain, is very personal. There is no one golden standard for stress levels for each one of us. That is why when we developed our algorithm, the professor who works with us, Professor Koffer, who is the dean of the biologic faculty at Berkeley, she insisted that we will add the psychological data because it's so retrospective and it's so important. The combination between psychological and physiological data give us, mind and body results and enable us to create the best solutions. Here you can see some profiles of our users, and then we can understand what kind of mix each one of them is going to get. For example, the orange one user will get the calm and the higher dosage of calm and comfort, and the blue one will get, if I see right here, so energetic and the relaxation. So each one of our users are going to get their own specific bars and to eat it and to enjoy that. So our business model is based on monthly package with fixed number of snacks. Each box contains anti-stress bars tailor-made to each user's stress factors. My Air purpose is to provide a stressless routine. And the future of food is food with a purpose. Thank you.
So Rachel, what trends are you taking advantage of in the food industry that will basically act as tailwinds for your business?
I have mine. So when I joined the pharma and food industry 20 years ago, our first mission was to take out all the baddies. So I got targets from Nestle to take from my snacks the salt and the olive and the oil. So it was all about moving from quantity to quality. The next generation of food industry was be functional, add some added value. So we launched Activia in Israel, we launched Actimel, all of that kind of foods that they are better for you. The third generation is really superfood. Now we see the protein industry in the food, which is booming. People prefer healthy food than taking medicines. And the fourth generation of food is, derived from the AI revolution. So personalized nutrition is going to be, for sure, what all of us are going to use 5 years from now.
Can you tell us a bit about the science that you found in MyAir, the science that MyAir is based on?
So MyAir is based on 2 layers of science. One side is the food and the formulations, which are trade secret, and they're based on biomimics. We are imitating the synergies that occurs in plants, and we create adherence. And as my Dr. Gile Vitos is saying, molecule is a molecule is a molecule. It doesn't matter if it comes from the plant itself or if I'm taking the extract. So, and building the combination and the synergies. And the other science is, of course, the AI science that based on preliminary research on physical and psychological data. And our team, we use, team of experts. So we work with Professor Koffer from Berkeley, who is the dean of the biologic faculty, and she's a stress researcher within the last 20 years. Dr. Gile Vitos, who is a cannabis researcher from the Technion, scientist. Dr. Gofna Lis, who is at Nestle, and she's the head of innovation. Dr. Maya Kochman from California, from Impossible Foods. So we are using always, the best experts to work with us. And we have, of course, psychological, physicians, and AI experts.
So how does your product differentiate from other products out there?
So MyAir is at a meeting point of 3 industries: functional food, personalized nutrition, and stress management. So when we assess competition, we are looking at the 3 industries and the competition that we have at each one of them. So talking about stress management, probably you're all aware of Calm or Headspace. It's booming now, all that trend of apps for, feeling better. The problem with that is that when you download the app, after a while, it's another thing to do in your to-do list. And as Dr. Dan Ariely is talking about changing behavior, and you were talking about that, the problematics that occurs in the health system. So for people, it's really different to create new habits and to stop, their day and now start to meditate. So we believe that it's easier to change habits within what you're doing anyway, and this is eating. I mean, all of us need, some snack in the morning and afternoon, and it's really healthy, gluten-free, vegan, only 110 calories. So instead of just eating a cookie, eat something which is healthy and helps your stress.
So you say that the formulation can actually combat stress. That's a big statement. How exactly does it combat stress?
So each one of our components is based on research. The synergies themselves, based on 5,000 people research that was conducted, and we understood and learned from that research what kind of synergies create what kind of effects. And this is how we created the synergies. And more than that, the proof is in the pudding. Until now, more than 30 people tried our products. You were one of them. And, other investors like Entra VC, like Tel Aviv University VC, who invested in us. All of you and others tried our products and understand immediately how they affect. So we conducted a preliminary research, and we are going to conduct a clinical research as well.
So you raised $2 million. Where does it take you?
So as planned, we raised it for 18 months, and we even move faster than our plan. We developed already 12 formulations, 3 flavors, and we conducted a sensoric research for them. We developed them in California. So we know, in food, taste is really important. It doesn't matter how amazing and beneficial it will be functionality. If it's not good and you don't like the taste, so we will not take it. So we know at least that. We already developed the algorithm, the UX UI, created preliminary research on that, and we are going to conduct the clinical trials. We are working now on scaling up the production in the US, and we are going to launch a beta next quarter. So by the plan.
How does your unique experience help you with MyAir?
I feel that both my co-founder is not here today, but we are complementary because, I came from the food and pharma industries and big corporates. So I know from internally how they work, how they think, what kind of processes they, admire. And I work, by the book in quality and pharma-grade compliance way. And in the future, I think it would help us as a startup. And my co-founder is coming from the tech industry, from personalization, from, launching innovative products. So I think that within this complementary knowledge and experience, we can create the right thing.
What's next for MyAir?
So first, we're going to move to California. This is, where our target audience is located, key opinion leaders, the Silicon Valley, persons who are early adopters with hectic lifestyle, demanding careers. They don't want to stop. They just want to manage the stress. We are going to move by the plan and to create all, the steps that I mentioned before. And we truly believe that stress management is something that all of us should do exactly as we perceive how we manage our dietary routine, how we manage our sports routine. And this is the next step.
Great. Thank you very much. So I would like to invite co-founder and CEO of Binah, David Maman. David is a serial entrepreneur. He founded 13 startups, had several exits. David got his master's degree when he was 18 years old, and he's been an incredible thought leader in AI, in cybersecurity, and in many other tech industries.
So, hi everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. Hi everyone, my name is David, and I co-founded Bina with two amazing co-founders with me, Michael Markzon, which was leading deep learning in PayPal, and Konstantin Gadali, that besides his PhD in physics, also holds a PhD in applied mathematics. Today we're a team of 36 people and 14 PhDs, so we have an amazing research team and amazing research power. Most of them, by the way, are coming from physics and not machine learning. When it comes to, I guess, recognitions, just a month ago we received the Innovation Awards in CES. 2 weeks ago we received the Grand Champion in the Entity Data Competition, and we've been doing pretty interesting. So we're living in a world when we take for obvious that we have a medical service just a few walking steps. But according to the World Health Organization, half of the world doesn't have access to essential health services. And this is the end of 2019 report. We're not talking about anything that happened just 20 years ago. More than that, we're talking about that during the next 30 years, the number of people above the age of 60 is going to more than double itself to be more than 2.1 billion people. And with that, the average cost on an annual raise of over 5%. With this kind of technology, we have to understand how can we fill this kind of a gap, because that doesn't mean that next year we're going to have another 50,000 hospitals built and servicing everyone. It means that technology will have to drop into and add the value. What we have been able to develop is a technology that using a camera only, we're able to actually extract vital signs out of the person's face. We're only focusing on the cheeks, so we do not touch or analyze any identifiable features. This technology can work in offline, which means that we're able to analyze a video that was already recorded. As long as it was recorded in a reasonable quality, we're able to extract vital signs out of the person's face. And besides analyzing video in offline, which means we have the video already available, we're actually able to run it on any smartphone. This technology today runs already over a few million devices, which means it's a production level technology. We're not talking about the ability of research point or anything. This is the real app, by the way. I don't know who's this fat guy. So we're able to extract today heart rate in 7 seconds, oxygen saturation in 10 seconds, respiration rate in 25 seconds. We're able to extract mental stress level, the official Bayevsky stress index, within the next first 45 seconds. We're able to get heart rate variability. Next month, we'll be launching blood pressure that we also can do just using a smartphone without the need for any additional hardware. Hemoglobin level is done, it's now in tests, and we believe that before the end of the year, we'll finish temperature and alcohol blood level as well. All of the technology that you see here only uses the camera. We do not use any other sensor besides the camera, and we're able to provide all this just as an app that can run almost on any smartphone. And when it comes to of course, to those kind of results and to those kinds of findings, the question, is it a gadget or is it aiming to be a medical device? We finished 4 different clinical trials in 4 different hospitals, over 1,000 people, showing that the accuracy of each and every read is a medical grade accuracy. In a very high level, today we support any skin color, any age, any device with a camera, because the entire technology runs on the device itself. We do not require internet connectivity. We do not require a connection to anywhere else. Everything is available just on the device itself. So for example, we're implementing now on smart mirrors. And the question, of course, what we do with this kind of technology. So telemedicine, everything about remote care and remote patient monitoring, we're able to provide you the option that while you have a video consultation with your patients, we can actually extract all those kind of vital signs. Remote care, nursing homes. When it comes to insurance, we're already in production at the largest insurance company in Japan, at Sompo, when they're able to extract mental stress level of their customers in order to better estimate their risk for life insurance and health insurance. Production already, this is not a POC. When it comes to insurance, we're working with one of the largest reinsurers, actually the second biggest reinsurers in the world, in order to create a new type of quick underwriting. How you can actually have an underwriting capabilities within 2 minutes and without the need to send a prospect to go to have a full checkup at a doctor's place. And the last part, we're working with a few different automotive manufacturers and tier ones in order to have those kind of observation as part of any moving vehicle. Goes without saying that in the automotive industry, this is extremely long process, so we started passing by and working with the aftermarket providers so they can just have it running in a car within a few months and not within 5 years. What we deliver today an SDK, which means any software owner, and we already have a few dozens, can implement all of our capabilities inside of their software. Sompo have their own application. Inside of it, they're running our capabilities. Clear, at the entrance to the US, already finished the integration. The biggest healthcare service provider in Nepal just finished the integration. And we already have a few dozen customers that just can embed all of those capabilities inside of their app. So instead asking your customers to buy a smartwatch or asking your customers to go to a checkup, everything can be done just out of the smartphone. Next month, March 25th, we will be launching a B2C app as well. So everyone will be able to download it. And you can go now to BeView. I didn't wrote it down, but BeView app, you can check it out in our website. We will be providing heart rate for free and all the service as much as we can. bvue.app.mechanicscomputers. No, I'm kidding. Just.app. Just.app. Thank you very much, everyone. Hi, Shelley. How's the corona? Not funny, sorry.
Speaking of Corona, can't you guys help with Corona?
So we're actually working now with about 7 different Chinese huge conglomerates because everyone understands that Corona is a game changer. It's really funny because just a year ago we had a much greater epidemic that 5,000 people died, and no one cared because it was in Africa, of course. But I think that just today it was published in the biggest, online medical health, a paper that I wrote about how digital health will prevent epidemics. So yes, I think we will be able to prevent those kind of things.
Isn't it surprising that we're in 2020, but still most people don't have access to health?
So I thought about that as well, and think about that. Today when we're talking about Africa, for example. So when people think about how many doctors are available for a population, they usually measure the number of doctors per 1,000 people. And today in Israel, for example, it's about 3 doctors per 1,000 people. In the US, it's about 2.5 doctors per 1,000 people. In some countries that are tens of millions of people in Africa, is 1 doctor per 25,000 people. So we're talking about that if we take into calculation the biggest countries in Africa, of course, the biggest regions in India, in China, we're talking about 1 doctor that in an average is up to 50,000 people. And that's crazy, but we easily get to a few billions of people that doesn't have access to medical services.
Wow. It's
You need a doctor?
Well, looking at your technology, it really looks like magic. Can you explain what's behind it?
Sure. So everyone, when they see it for the first time, they're really surprised. But basically, we didn't invent so much because everyone that have a smartwatch or any kind of a Fitbit device, at the back of your watch, you have those jumping lights. And this is basically a PPG, photoplasmography. This technology actually was announced in 1937. I'm not kidding. What we're able to do is actually have the same kind of signal just out of your face. What we're analyzing, and this is pure signal processing, it's not AI, what people refer to, we're analyzing the light reflection and color changes from your cheeks. And the light actually makes a reflection from your cheeks to the camera. That's how you can have a picture. And we're able to extract the same PPG signal just out using any camera that have 30 frames per second or above.
So why Binah.ai?
So because in the process, we have a lot of AI points. For example, face detection, avoiding color changes and artifacts over the influence over the camera. Blood pressure is pure AI, hardcore deep learning architecture. And each and every model have those capabilities, but the baseline to extract the signal is pure signal processing.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So why are you now releasing a B2C app?
So we're not going to change our go-to-market. We are a B2B company. We're providing this SDK to companies to embed those capabilities inside of their app. But in order to create awareness, to create a much better branding, we want everyone to know what is Binah and how it works. The BView will be available for everyone. And just for a few dollars a month, you're going to have most of the features.
Mm-hmm. So where do you see Binah by the end of this year and by the end of next year?
So I think that the goal that we set to ourselves is starting to get to it. We're starting to see it happening. We're aiming that by the end of this year, we will run over 50 million devices as an SDK, of course. And we're aiming that the BView app will have above 1 million users, which is unknown, but we're not expecting it. It's not part of our pipeline. Next year is the big question. We should have temperature. We should have alcohol blood level by the end of the year. And that's a completely different market size. So I think we can aim high to aim over 200 million installations for next year. Let's see how it goes.
Can you maybe share with us what applications are adopted today?
No, sorry.
With your
no, sure, kidding. So I think the number one customers that we have is actually about stress. We've implemented the official Bayevsky Stress Index, which is actually the baseline for the US and the European stress index. And in Japan, it's moving very, very fast, not just Sompo from Japan, the largest insurance companies, but others as well. And we see how heart rate and HRV, heart rate variability, is also an extremely important factor. So we have it running on quite a few different customers now. And everyone wants everything. Suddenly everyone is an Israeli. Yeah, we want everything. But for example, it's really interesting to see how developing countries are much more flexible on adopting such technologies. For example, the customer that we just got on board a few weeks ago is the government of Nepal. And the government of Nepal actually paid a nice amount of money in order to start having, for a first trial of 50,000 people in Nepal, to have this up running all of their population. And I think with the corona, when we're talking about that, how can a country or even the World Health Organization can actually identify a trend in health across the country without being able to extract vital signs remotely? So if every one of in Israel, or not say everyone, let's say a quarter, you can easily see where patient zero is coming from. You can easily see where there's a location, then epidemic starts. The fever goes up, the blood pressure goes high in a specific neighborhood, in Neve Tzedek, just saying, and suddenly you wanna see how it's spreading, so you can easily identify those points. And developing countries, and not only developing countries, starting to understand that. See what's happening the past 2 weeks in Korea. From 27 infected people, now we're over 1,000 in a few days. And how can you track and how can you monitor a huge amount of population without such technologies? I don't know how you can do that.
Fascinating.
Thank you. I try my best.
So is this your killer application, literally?
Until the next one.
Okay. Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, guys.
Actually, I wanted to invite everybody, all the speakers, David, just for a quick session with the audience. Any questions from the audience? Yes.
I would like to ask the question is my app, and this is the biggest spending in anything to do with food and the cost of shelf space.
That's so true, and this is not the main reason, but one of the reasons that we are e-commerce. You saw the subscription model. The future of food industry and digital health industry is only e-commerce. You know that 60% of the patients in the US prefer to see a doctor via her smartphones. And this is, a study that I did in Teva. So that's true. Yeah, I mean, we share the same, data. So once a month, you're going to get a box to your house, and since we are using AI and personalization mechanism, so anyway, we're going to calculate in advance what kind of mix of bars you're going to get. So we are not going to be on shelves. You will not find us in Whole Food or CVS or whatever. Yes, we might do some pop-up stores for marketing, obviously.
Anyone else?
I have a question for David. I'm just curious why you decided, it sounds like you're changing your strategy to go to B2C.
Yeah, so we're not. Completely not. We're a B2B company. We're maintaining a B2B sales. We have already a sales guy in the US, in Tokyo, and in Europe. But I think that a branding for a company, when we start a conversation with a major organization, for example, now we started working with Swiss Re. So for them, in order to provide them a trial to run over the phone so they can try it, it's a big half. And when we're able just to tell them, go to the store, download it, we'll give you a key, you can use it for free, just to try the app. So it's a much better reachability. And besides that, when it comes to company awareness. So at CES, we were the only company out of 400 companies at the digital health area in CES that almost no one knew anything about us. You know, a small company from Israel, we're 40 people almost, and this will change that. We believe that we have quite an amazing reporters waiting to make headlines about that. And next month, we hope to get a lot of traction because of that as well. Bina, yes, but for the app, it's a BView. BView, like Bina View. BView, just, no, the word doesn't exist. That's why we chose it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Just to mention for that, you know, Intel Inside, you know, coming from marketing, it's the same idea, so very smart.
What about FDA and...
Yeah, so we started working actually with MWE, that I think you've heard about, on an FDA process. And in PMDA, Sompo is taking the entire leadership to submit for a PMDA in Japan. PMDA is the Japanese FDA. So by the end of the year, PMDA is already scheduled to finish. And the FDA, I guess it will take probably a few more months. So we're in the process, making a long story short.
For what?
So the most important one undoubtedly is blood pressure. If you get blood pressure done correctly, the rest no one cares about. So blood pressure is the goal for the first PMDA and FDA, and on the way we're doing to all the different reads that we have today. Thank you. One by one, slowly.
So I have a question. AI has become a buzzword. What are your thoughts about AI? I mean, is it real? Is it a commodity? Is it who's really doing AI?
So, because of Bina, I will start. But in a very high level, let's be honest, AI is a buzzword. And everyone adds AI, but when we're talking about AI, eventually when people, most of them talk about AI, they're talking about machine learning or deep learning. Statistical estimations and, Guardian descent eventually when it comes to deep learning have been out there for generations. Now we have the technology available that everyone can actually run a deep learning or machine learning model even on their smartphones. And today's statistical estimation, I don't think that there's any other way today to reach real and accurate and consistent results without using statistical estimations in the most advanced challenges, I guess. And I think that now the humanity have reached to the water point where we don't control things anymore. Because, up to a decade ago, we could actually explain how things are working. We could actually explain why a computer is working in a specific way. Once you're giving a computer 700 million points, and you have a deep learning model that gives you an answer and it's correct, and you're not even able to understand how actually to work, that's scary, but we're there already. So I think, like everyone learns C or C++ or Python today, machine learning is going to be embedded through all of our lives. Anywhere. There's no way out of it. That's how I truly see that.
Maybe from an entrepreneur point of view, I think it's important. It will go through a process same as the previous passport. I think cloud, when everyone will use AI, it will become commodity. Yet there is still a lot of place for innovation, and you have to work hard on identify what's commodity, what's just configuration of existing technology, and you don't have real IP there, you just embed it in your product. And where's the place where you can still innovate? I think at least in the next decade there is enough gap between what already being commoditized and what you can still innovate. You just have to know to clear the noise from the buzz stuff and distinguish between these two stuff. And then there's a lot of opportunity.
Just as a short feedback, it's not about AI anymore. It's about ROI. And if you choose AI to get there, choose AI. If you want to choose C++, who cares? Exactly. But it's not about AI. There is no way to sell AI as AI anymore. There's a lot of data science platforms, there's a lot of data science open platform, but that doesn't mean anything. A company cannot buy AI for itself. If you can get an answer which is much more accurate, much more consistent with AI, God bless you.
And if you
The
can,
God of AI, of course.
and if you can do something smart and efficient with added value to the consumer with the data, this is, what makes this important. I mean, data we have now, enormously. This is the era of data. The question is what kind of insights and added value you give to the consumers.
Thank you.